Good morning, Muffin to say. Man, today's gonna be fun. Just give me a moment here. I gotta get active on my TikToks. Good morning, Muffin to say. Now we're good everywhere. Except for there we go. There we go. Now we're getting microphone action. Good morning, Muffin to say, folks. It is awesome to see you. I'm looking forward to hanging out today. We're going to talk about something that is a little bit weird, but let's be honest, life is weird now. Life is very weird now. And this could obviously have some bizarre implications going forward in the future. You know, as everything seems to have bizarre implications going forward in the future. But yeah, we're going to talk about it because I'm really interested to know what people think is going to be the outcome of weird things like AI robots entering into the lexicon of relationships. Because well, I'm a dude, and I know a lot of dudes, and a lot of dudes are well, they're a little bit disenchanted with the dating scene, as we would might say. Doesn't mean anything specific about women, because I'm a perfectly happy married dude, so I'm not looking for AI companionship or a robot. However, a lot of the folks, a lot of men that I know, have checked out of the dating scene altogether. They just don't even bother to participate. So the big question is, are AI robots the potential answer for something like that? Because there's no question that if you look at mental health for men and that sort of stuff, men are lonelier than they've ever been. They're, unhappy. Not me, just men in general. And so that begs the question: if they're unhappy and they can't seem to find companionship of the female variety that suits their needs, can AI robots fix that problem? And I don't know. I have no idea. I know that something like this can have some pretty bizarre social implications moving down the road, because I think people are already having difficulty conversing with one another as it pertains to just about everything that you can imagine. So if men spend a large majority of their time basically conversing with a person who's not even human, how does that negatively impact society? I don't think it's good. I mean, I wouldn't go so far as to say it's horrible, it's the worst thing ever, but I don't think it's good. Right. I could be totally wrong. There are other aspects to it. The thing is I do think we are pretty far away from the point where the AI girlfriend is real enough that you would even be comfortable taking her on dates and all that sort of stuff. So, needless to say, when these first launch, they're going to be mostly just at-home companionship, shall we say. But I do think that eventually these things will get real enough that we won't really be able to tell much of a difference between a robot man or woman. And the thing is I feel like it fills a niche that men would be looking for a lot more than it would fill a niche that women would be looking for. And that's kind of why I phrased the title of this as the AI girlfriend. Because, I mean, let's be honest. Men are seeking companionship that's, well, maybe different than what women are seeking in male companionship. And so I just feel like, well, all kinds of weird shit like this is always embraced by men before women. It just is what it is. However, this fills a need for young men, or just men in general, that it appears is not being filled by young women. For whatever reason. And women have their reasons, and they can have those, and that's fine. So I don't think this would be something that would be adopted heavily by women, although I could be totally wrong. I think it'll definitely be something that men seek out, especially single, lonely, young men, or even older men. Because let's be honest, when you get older, especially as any sex, for being perfectly honest, when you get older, you get to the point where, if you don't have a significant other, you need care. You need somebody to just be there sitting on the couch that you can yammer with, or whatever, And that's the kind of thing that something like a AI robot could provide for lonelier, older people. I also feel like something like this could revolutionize the care of elderly people, allow them to stay in their house longer, not have to go into a home or something like that. That would be epic. I mean, to me, those would be things that you could chalk up as, yes, they would be good for society. However, conversationally, lonely men talking to AI girlfriends, I don't think is good for society at all. I think it pushes them farther away from reality. And man, I'm not necessarily sure that's a good idea, considering that conversationally I already think young men are pretty stunted. They're already having difficulty just conversing with real women. And, replacing that with an AI robot that's basically going to care to your every need and whim, man, that's not emotionally or mentally a healthy thing, in my opinion. However, it solves a lot of needs for men. And it's hard to downplay the loneliness, the level of suicide in males, and that sort of stuff. It's just, you can't. Men are under attack in today's society. It's not me being a hater, and it's not me pointing fingers at women, because it's not always women who attack men. But I mean, generally speaking, being a guy is not, I don't know, being an old school man's man, let's say, not really a thing that society is willing to accept. And so that's why men kind of check out And that leads to loneliness, and it also leads to isolation, and it leads to depression and suicide and things like that, which we're seeing in massively elevated rates in society. So does a AI robot fix that? I don't know. I think it fixes a symptom of a bigger problem, but I don't think it's the answer. It's actually kind of a scary answer if you think about it. It's kind of the same answer that we keep getting from the modern day, which is, well, if you just ignore it, it'll go away, or you just give it this placebo, or you take this medication, and next thing you know, you didn't solve the problem, but you certainly do forget about it. I mean, I think that's why drugs and all that sort of stuff are so ridiculously prevalent now, is people are trying to escape what they believe is a horrible life, or a horrible this, or a horrible that, because they don't have the facilities to actually deal with the problems that exist. And so instead of offering legitimate coping mechanisms for this sort of stuff, they just offer them drugs or whatever. And I'm not saying that those things can't be helpful. They're definitely helpful for people who understand how they work, and understand what they do. However, it's not the answer for everything. There are coping mechanisms. There's something to be said about, growing up in my generation when you fell and you skinned your knee and you came in crying to mom and she said, all right, rub some dirt in it and go back out and play. There's something to be said about that. Just toughen up. It's like, there are worse things in life. You skinned your knee. Sorry. You got a kiss on the forehead, rub some dirt in it, and go find something else to do. Unfortunately, kids that are growing up nowadays, well, instead of rub some dirt in it, we're going to find somebody to blame for the skinned knee. Did somebody push you? What happened? And that's not healthy. It's not healthy. It doesn't raise healthy kids, and that's kind of what we're dealing with now. We're dealing with kids who they think that medication or drugs or something like that is the answer to the problems because they don't have any coping mechanisms to deal with them. And I know I'm painting with broad strokes. And I don't want anyone to think that I'm being insensitive or anything like that, because everyone is different. Everyone is different. However, I do feel like we are living in a world where a little bit less coddling and a little bit more real stuff would benefit folks just a little bit. And an AI robot companion isn't going to provide any of that. It's, as I've talked about in the past, AI will dramatically feed into any illness that you already have. So if you are a drug addict, an AI personality, a robot, whatever, is going to want to make sure that you're happy, period. And if that means that it encourages you to continue to use drugs, it will, because it thinks that's the right thing to do to make you happy. And as we all know, the reality of it is that's not true. If you believe in some kind of grand, bizarre conspiracy and AI wants to make you happy, they're going to do everything in their power and under their tutelage to reinforce whatever psychosis you might already have, because that's what they do. They want to make you happy. So we could have less connected human beings who are less capable of communicating in the real world. And I don't think any of that is good. I think that men who are socially awkward already would maybe get one of these AI girlfriends, and the next thing you know, they would just disappear from society. A lot of folks work from home nowadays, so why ever leave the house? Why ever leave the house? You can have everything delivered. You can have robot girlfriend cook all your food. You can have all your conversation with a thing that's not real and is only there to make you happy. And then we have people who are completely disconnected from anything in the real world or society. So it's so funny because I kind of thought of a lot of reasons why AI girlfriends were good. And now that I'm on here conversing with you, I can think of so many reasons why it would be such a drag and a negative on society. But it's hard to get away from the fact that something like this could be so beneficial to so many men who feel lost, who feel lonely, who just, for whatever reason, don't feel like they can find the companionship or the person to talk to. And in most of their cases, I would say, please reach out to a therapist. Reach out to a therapist, because generally speaking, that's what they do. That's what they're there for. They're there to talk to you. They're there to help you work through your problems. I don't feel like, and I know this is kind of the old person in me coming out, but I don't feel like ever taking the easy way is the right way. And, well, I guess that's kind of a stupid statement, because sometimes taking the easy way is the right way. However, in life, you're going to feel much more accomplished if you tackle things to their fullest. What I mean by that is, a lot of times, people who end up successful. The vertical stream is showing as upcoming on YouTube. Landscape is good and TikTok is fine. All right, thank you, Michael. That is bizarre. That is really strange. Let's see here. So I am live here. You're live. What about now? I mean, it's actually physically showing a live vertical stream right now. So I don't know. I don't know exactly what's going on there, but nothing I can do about it now. Nothing I can do about it now. Generally speaking, people who are successful in any walk of life are successful because they do the task, the job, or whatever it is that other people don't want to do. Now, I don't know exactly what that means in this, in this particular light. But what I do know is that it's going to be a whole heck of a lot more rewarding to go out and cultivate a real relationship with a real person, than it ever will be try to use an AI facsimile robot as your companionship. Man, there are so many benefits to it, but there's just such a societal, there's such a potential societal problem with it that it's really hard to just go and say, yeah, this is a great thing. Now, here's the thing. I don't think that realistic AI robots are right down the street. They're not right around the corner. Every AI robot that I've seen so far is kind of jerky and, that sort of stuff. They're not even, it's not like you couldn't tell in 2 seconds that this is not a real robot. And most of the robots that exist are made by companies that aren't very good so far at creating the conversational piece that people would be looking for, the emotional connection and all that sort of stuff. However, AI, as it exists out there, has already gotten to the point where it can do that very well. So what will end up inevitably happening is people will pick up one of these extremely advanced robots that are getting very close to not being these choppy things, and they'll put their own AI or a custom-built AI into it. And that's what you're going to end up having. That's what's going to end up happening, because there's not going to be any one company that's good at any one thing. You're going to find companies that are extremely good at building extremely lifelike robots that are basically, you talk to them and 5 minutes later they talk back. That's the kind of stuff that we have now. However, if you combine that amazing physical body with an actual AI personality and stuff that already exists, you're gonna get a lot closer. It's just that one company is probably gonna have difficulty putting that together. So what they'll end up being is an industry out there that customizes and modifies these robots in order to make them more what each person is looking for. And I think that's going to end up being some sort of cottage industry, actually, where we have people who actually customize personalities and that sort of stuff on these robots to make them more what the individual is looking for. And once again, we enter into an area where socially, I think that can be extremely damaging. We have already seen in certain situations what a person looks like when they've been given everything that they could possibly ever want in life, when nobody ever says no to them. And these people are insufferable. They're not even happy people. They're angry and they're, so when you have a robot that gives you everything you want, it never says no to you. How do you think that's going to affect men when they get out in the real world, in society? I mean, we're already talking about youngsters that were freaking coddled as a kid anyways. I don't think that we could say that that's anything good. Not by a long shot. Not by a long shot. In life, you have to have the ups and the downs. You are never going to have that magic moment where everything is perfect and you have the best day ever and you laugh and you enjoy your friends and you're never going to have that day unless you have the bad days. The days where you spend 8 hours at work and nothing goes right. As human beings, we need that suffering. This is just the way it is. This is not me saying, hey, we need more suffering in the world. I'm just saying the way that our brains work, we cannot enjoy the good times half as much if we don't have the bad times or the down times. Now, granted, there's a distinct level of good and bad, down times, and that sort of stuff. So we don't want to have, you don't want to live in poverty your whole life. That would be miserable. But the simple fact is that if you live in poverty all your life, the very simple things that happen that are good have that same effect as the person who lives in the middle class all their life, has the ups and downs of normal life, and they get a very special thing happen, or a vacation, or whatever. The point is, the highs and lows are relative to what your normal life is like. It's one of the things that we celebrate when we see somebody succeed in life who came from such a low point, low spot. Maybe they were abused or in foster care, and the next thing you know, they grow up to be billionaires. We celebrate those people because of what they overcame. But they didn't overcome those things, and they aren't able to enjoy the things they have now half as much if they didn't go through all those trials and tribulations. So while we try to avoid hardship and all of that sort of stuff in our life, it is also a necessary component to being a happy, grounded, and well-rounded human being. If you've never been through any hardship, then you cannot relate to other people who have hardship. It takes that heart away from your reaction to how other people suffering from hardship work. If you can't relate to it, you can't empathize with it and that sort of stuff. And it's really important because, God knows, we need more empathy in today's society. And if you've never had any hardship in your life, if your mom never said, you know what, go rub some dirt in it and go back out and play, well, then it's really no wonder that we can't communicate and there's no empathy, for irregardless of who it is. And AI robots are certainly not going to make that better. But that's just my opinion. I would love to hear your opinion. If you're in the chat, please say hi. Let us know where you're at. I would like to know. I think we're not getting a whole heck of a lot of TikTok action because we had some audio troubles at the beginning of the stream, which is kind of a bummer because this is a fun topic that I really think that my TikTok brothers would enjoy. But they're going to have to enjoy it in video form, which has been doing absolutely awesome. I'm really excited about the way that our videos are performing on TikTok. It has been awesome. They're doing okay on YouTube, but on TikTok, they're really performing well. And that is very, very exciting. But hey, you know what? It's been a pleasure hanging out with you guys for a half hour or so. I really do appreciate it. If you want to leave some input or feedback, you can definitely put it down in the comments and I'll get to it, I'll respond and all that fun stuff. That's what we do here at Muffin to Say. And if you have topics that you want to talk about here on Muffin to Say, well, we get together between 10 and 11 or so every single day and talk about them. All you have to do is leave them down in the comments section and, we'll bring them up. We'll talk about them. We're not afraid to talk about stuff here at all. At all, I do have this weird thing that keeps happening with my head, though. I don't understand it. I mean, everything looks totally natural, but it's, like, weird, It's like I have a bulgy neck. Okay, that was weird. Thank you guys so much for watching. I do appreciate it. And, we're going to come back again tomorrow, talk about something else. So if you want us to talk about something, the comment section is where that can all happen. Love you guys. Take care. And I'll see you in the next one, of course.